Death and dying is a topic that individuals and society as a whole typically tend to avoid. Yet it's one in which we all need to discuss, and preferably sooner than later.
Laura came to me and we sort of talked about different ways that student activities could pair with one of the courses that she's teaching. And I just feel like this is a perfect example of the way that student activities and academics can pair together to try and create a high-impact practice or high-impact events for students.
Today, more than 100 million Americans are living with a chronically ill disease. So deciding what is best has become not just a personal, but a public decision. Last year, I had the opportunity to see the play, The Bridge Club of Death. And I was struck by the playwright's ability within a 50-minute performance to address a very serious topic, namely death and dying, and in particular, the right to die with dignity in a thought-provoking, heartbreaking, and yet humorous way. As the play ends with a presenting dilemma as to what one Bridge Club member will do, the audience is left pondering what the outcome will potentially be. So it seemed like a natural transition to have an open dialogue on end-of-life issues.
I can't do it. I can't. Lou, it's like family. I love him. I just can't do it. I can't be responsible for that.
You're already responsible for a lot of people like Lou.
It's not the same, and you know it. I won't do this. I won't be a part of it. It's Lou, for God's sake.
And that's exactly why we have to do it. Because it's Lou. Let him have some dignity.
I won't do it. And you can't either. That's our agreement. If one of us wants to stop, we all stop.
She's right, Betty. That's the agreement.
Oh, big surprise. Look who's taking Alice's side.
It's not my side, Betty. It's not my side.
Oh, Alice, you have always been afraid of getting caught, afraid of cornhole watching, afraid of everything. If it was left up to you, we would not have helped a single person.
Help? Is that what you're going to tell the judge when we get caught, that this was all just help?
Yes, that's what I'm going to say. That's why we've been doing this. What other reason is there?
The objective of the program was to foster and supplement the learning outcomes by students in my death and dying class, as well as to provide an option for community members to participate in an open and non-judgmental dialogue. Another primary objective was to determine how attendees felt about physician-assisted suicide in light of a proposal being considered by the New York State Legislature to establish a right to die with dignity law, as is the case and was done in the state of Oregon and 4 other states.
The Douglas C. Garner Center for Civic Engagement focuses on deliberations, which is a way of bringing community together to talk about a difficult issue and to consider various options that we might use in addressing the issue. When people come together in a deliberation, they're really asked to think about what's good about each option, what's not good about it, and what we might have to give up individually in order to make a decision for the collective good.
I really liked the combination of something in the arts and then going in and having a conversation. I think it helped us to get out of our heads a little bit and more into our hearts. So I really liked that angle to it. I thought it was a great combination of activities.
I think that there's something magical about theater, that we as an audience go into a dark space and we sort of forego a lot of taboo, and we suspend our disbelief, and we can talk about things and think about things that sometimes it's uncomfortable to talk or think about. So I think this is the perfect medium for the play. You know, it makes us laugh, it makes us cry, it's got a little bit of everything, and hopefully at the end people will come out of it with a new perspective on the piece.
So this is the first time that we've been invited to something like this from Mercy House, and kind of looking forward to seeing what people's opinions, to see, get a young adult's perspective on what they thought about the situation that is occurring for all of us as we approach those times of our lives.
It impacts everybody. If you have a senior who is in the last throes of their life, it just does not impact maybe their soulmate. It's going to impact children and friends in terms of decisions that have to be made. And regardless of what their religious perspectives are, the vast majority want the right to basically end their life on their terms, not on the terms of a doctor, not on the terms of a machine. Children and young people tend to think they're immortal. When grandparents die, that's one thing, but even thinking about their own demise and the demise of their parents and what role they might have in conversations with people, I think is important.
I'm curious about what the community members have to say about it. I hope to get more engaged with the community and also expand my own knowledge. I'm young, I'm not familiar with death or suffering, so maybe witnessing a theatrical performance could maybe put me into those shoes a little bit better. And also the deliberation at the end. It's exciting as well.
We have independent, assisted, and memory care for elderly in our area. It's very important to us because we deal with this every day on a daily basis with individuals that are looking ahead in life and seeing what their options are.
We attended today because we wanted to let people know what the Office for Aging has to offer, especially towards the end of life, where you have a lot of services and supports. And with New York Connects, we're the one-stop shop for information, assistance, and referrals. So we've got lots of information at our table, and we're just hoping that lots of people come by and we can help them and direct them into all the different areas that will help them as caregivers.
You know, my initial reaction was that these friends had made a pact with one another and they should honor it. But it was interesting during our discussion, people raised the question of, can you be sure that once the time came that the patient in question really would have wanted her to take his life? You know, everybody was clear that they had made that decision in advance, but then I'm sure there would be some question of, would he really, are we sure right now that he would want us to do that? I thought that was an interesting question.
Sorry, I can't do it either. It's Lou. I can't do it to Lou even if he asks me to. How do we know it now that the moment is coming? He's changed his mind, but he can't tell us. How do we know that any of them really want to go through with it when the time comes?
They all asked us beforehand, Frank. They wanted us to do it.
I know, but I'm saying at the moment. How do we know they haven't changed their mind? They can't speak to it, but maybe they want another minute to think of their family. I've changed my mind. I've come to a change of heart. I can't do this anymore. I don't want to make that decision. I don't want to be that instrument. Let nature take its course. Let God do it.
But what about the pain? What about the pain? What about being in a body that doesn't respond to your mind anymore? What about a mind that doesn't respond at all?
I can't do this anymore.
I feel like a deliberation is a good way to get everyone's view on a topic. It allows for open dialogue, so everyone got to talk about the same thing. Allowed the floor to be really open, because I feel strongly that a person should have their own choice to make that option to die with dignity. Death should always be talked about, only because it's such I believe families kind of put that on the back burner.
I think what we need to talk about is to make sure to have these conversations with our family members. That was something that everybody kept talking about, was we really need to talk to our family members and make sure that we all understand what one another would like. So I think that's an ongoing conversation.
So it should just be brought up more as a conversation or like a topic of conversation. And even like options of dying should be brought up as well, and how people want to pursue that.
All deliberations, what they do, and what I see as the essence of a deliberation, is that it helps people actually listen. I think at this point in our culture, people have a tough time listening because of all the distractions and because of the speed in which communication occurs. And I think the art of listening is sort of going away. So a deliberative process basically forces people or encourages people or helps people listen to one another about the various views and sharing their values and thoughts about important public issues.
What's also interesting to me, just from my perspective, is that this is also, not only is this the first time for us performing this particular show, but it's also the first time that they've used a piece of theater as a starting point for a deliberation, or as a focal point of a certain deliberation. And I would just like to encourage the idea in academia to use theater and pieces of theater as starting points for deliberation. There's pieces of art, poems are read at things like this, and paintings, all kinds of different art is used, but I think theater is very rarely used, or at least seems to be very rare.
That was my impression too, in the deliberation, that the issues in the play were issues that people genuinely have and are important to them.
The play brings up a good point in that we don't talk about death enough. And going into it, I definitely had a set notion of what I believed I would want to be taken care of at the end of life. And I still hold firmly to those views, but there are definitely different opinions that I've gotten that really make me have to think about, well, do I really agree with this, or should I change the way I view it? And I think, for me at least, I believe that everyone has the right to choose whether or not to die, but other people have brought up feelings that, make me wonder if that decision coincides with how I feel.
It really represents the values, or it encompasses many of the values that we all need to think about. End-of-life issues really, to me, tie into the importance of our values in regard to life and end-of-life. So it's really a very, very important topic and a set of issues that we all need to spend a little more time with. And as I mentioned before, also listening to one another about.
Well, I think deliberation is actually one of the best forms of communication so far in my life that I've experienced, because we get a group of people together and it's great because there's no argument.
Right.
And people get to voice their opinions without feeling that their opinion is wrong or right. And it just kind of flows. Like at first it feels a little awkward, everyone's a little cold, but then as you get into deliberation, like left and right people are talking, and it just is a great experience.
I think it was refreshing to be able to talk about the issues in a way that was irrespective of the work of the show. That was just a starting point for an evening that was really dedicated to the issues and to thinking about them critically and understanding different people's points of view.
I was very impressed with the people from the community who read about it in the newspaper and who came to the campus to be part of this.
Yes.
So when an educational institution reaches out to the community, and it's very powerful.
In this deliberation, we asked participants to fill out a questionnaire at the end, and what I found really interesting was that most of the people who attended reported that they felt that this was useful, not only because it helped to educate them on the topic, but it offered a platform for them to talk with each other respectfully and honestly, and yet not feel judged in any way. And so many of the people said, we need more of this in our community.
Why is this issue important to you?
Well, we're all gonna die.